Hello my gorgeous plant people, welcome back to Reading Mindfully. My name is Yana and today I need to repot some plants, so let's just get into it. Hey guys, like I said, so today I'm just gonna repot some plants because some of these plants I've been watering like every day because they just need a good repotting and the water is just sucking up and I can't be watering my plants every day. So the first plant is actually not one of the plants that's sucking up all the water, but this is my green rubber tree. And if you watch my new additions video that I just did, I went and bought a little buddy for my green rubber tree. And so I just want to go ahead and pot them up together. And plus this plant here is the bone dry one. So this one definitely does need to be repotted and the soil is just gross on that plant. So I'm gonna go ahead and combine it with its older brother, cousin, whatever relative you want to think of. And yeah, if you have any questions about what kind of soil mix I use, I will link my soil video up in the cards. But yeah, so let's just get going. So I was gonna try to repot this plant without having to pull this plant out, but I think the easiest way would just be to dump it out and start again. So that's what we're doing. And you can see that this one has a pretty sizable root structure, so hopefully I'll be able to go ahead and fit both of them in there. If not, we might just have to squeeze. The big one might have to go on a little bit of a diet for its root ball, a little bit of a trimming down. And if you can see, it's put out a tiny little baby on the side, which is so cute. I never had my any of my ficus do that. So I'm trying to knock off as much soil as possible so that way I can fit both of them in the pot. And this plant wasn't root bound, so it's not time to bump it up. Although my ficus have been growing so fast, and normally I would have to repot them 2 or 3 times during the summer, but thankfully this summer I haven't had to do that. I think it was last summer that I had to repot it 2 or 3 times, and that was just a hot mess, honestly. I enjoy repotting, but I don't enjoy repotting that much. So I'm just going to carefully lay that down, and then I'm going to pull this one out. This one is, see, you can see it's bone dry. And yeah, I won't even be able to really get any soil off of this plant without damaging it, so let's not do that. Just gonna put some soil in the bottom, but I have to be careful how much soil I put in the bottom because the older plant does have a longer root ball. So that looks pretty good. I do give myself about an inch or so clearance, so that way when I water the plant it just doesn't like flow over and make a whole bunch of mess. And so now I just rearrange it until both plants fit in there comfortably and I like the way it looks. And I think we might go with this one. I might actually put a little bit more dirt on this side just because this plant is considerably shorter. Just so it can be on pretty much the same level. And that looks good. So then I'll just fill it. How are you guys spending your Saturday? I feel like I've been trying to catch up on my planty stuff, especially with you know, just trying to get ready for doing my houseplant tour. But there are a couple more plants that I want to fix up. So I think I'll have one or two more series, or one or two more episodes of the transformation series before I go ahead and do my houseplant tour, which my houseplant tour will be like the finale. So that way you guys can see what they look like. My plants have done so much growing this year, it's insane. Even with the heat wave, they've done really well. I thought the heat wave was gonna really take a lot of them out, but they have been doing so well. So just gonna make sure we tuck that in there. And then I'll have to make sure I water this plant because it definitely does need a good drink. And since I'm putting it back outside, I just want to make sure it has enough water in it so that way it doesn't keep going limp. Because as you can see, it is a little bit limp. So once I water it, it'll perk up quite a bit. And so yeah, that is the finished result. Is what these two look like together. I know one is considerably shorter than the other, but it'll grow in time and they'll look so cute together. But yeah, this is the green rubber tree, and that's what that looks like. All right, so the next plant that I want to do is actually a plant that I've needed to repot for a while. It's one of the ones that are drinking a lot of water. And I'm just gonna get the pot. This plant is my Philodendron Ring of Fire. As you can see, it's gotten considerably big, and it's been drinking a lot of water, and I can start to see the roots coming through the bottom here. But this is one of the plants that I've been having to water every day, especially with it being outside. So I'm just going to gently ruffle the soil that's on top and on the sides. This is how I get my plants out of the pots without doing too much damage to the root ball. Just run my fingers around the edges to loosen it up. And then I start to pull gently. If the plant does not come out, I will go ahead and run my fingers around again. In this one, I can already see the roots coming up, so it has been pot bound for a while. All right. And so this is what the root ball looks like. As you can see, it has a lot of roots on the bottom, so it was starting to be very root bound, and the root ball is quite dry even though I just watered it yesterday. So I'm probably going to have to water it again after repotting. As well as this new leaf that's coming in is coming in really weird. Like, it looks like it's splitting like a snake's tongue. So I'm kind of interested to see what's happening with that leaf, but hopefully after repotting this plant it will be okay. I'm also thinking about staking up the plant. What I'm thinking about doing is cutting back my burle marxx, actually. The one that I just staked in one of my last transformation videos. I'm thinking about taking that off the pole to chop it back because I actually don't like the way that it's looking. I'm going to take out some of this soil because then it'll be too high. But I'm thinking about chopping that one back, taking the stake from that one and staking my Ring of Fire, just because my Ring of Fire is growing, it's growing like a crawler and it needs some support. That way it can start to climb. So it needs to be supported so it can grow more upright like this. And hopefully the leaves will straighten themselves out. But this is giving it a lot more room to grow, and then hopefully I won't have to water this plant every day. Because really philodendrons don't need to be watered every day. Even outside, that's a bit much. As I have other philodendrons outside, and those I don't water every day, so I'm just gonna fill up this pot, and I take my hand and gently go in on the sides just so I make sure I don't have any air pockets, because when you water the plant, the water won't reach those pockets, and then you'll have dry spots in those sections. And with dry spots, that's where the water won't be able to reach, and then it could potentially starve your roots of water in those sections, and then those roots could eventually die off because they're not receiving moisture. So you want to make sure that you get those air pockets taken out. But this is looking so much better. I don't think I've repotted this plant in a year. I think a year or so. No, I don't know. When did I get this plant? I got this plant in 2020. Did I get this plant during the pandemic? I have to go back and look at my records and my videos. Somebody asked me how long I've had certain plants, and I really have to go back on some of my videos. Some of these plants I really haven't had long at all, like at all. Some of them I've only had a year. And so to have some of the growth on some of these plants, and I've only had them for a year, is very outstanding to me. But that is my Philodendron Ring of Fire. She is a beauty, and if you can see this leaf is basically all orange or salmon or whatever color, coral, and that's from it being outside. It's just straight orange, and then the line in the middle is like green, but that's the only green on this entire leaf. So I've never had a whole leaf come out orange before. If you can see, it's always been like sections of the leaf, like this one, but I've never had like an entire orange leaf, so that's really cool. So we'll see what happens with this one. I've only ever seen like variegations that high amount on the caramel marble one. So to have it on the Ring of Fire, it's really cool because the caramel marble philodendron is really expensive. It goes for a couple $100s. So to have that on my Ring of Fire is just, it gives me the vibes of the caramel marble. The next plant that I want to go ahead and repot is my variegated burle marxx. This one has been needed to repot for a long time. It has that root that's coming out of the bottom of the pot. As you can see, that's the main times that I do go ahead and repot my plants, is when I have roots coming out of the bottom. And what I really love to do is to repot the biggest plant and then work my way down, because then all my other plants can just bump up to the next pot, so that way I can just save on buying pots. It's really helpful that way. So I'm just going to ruffle like I did the other ones so that way I don't damage the roots. Because if you damage the roots, you will really shock the plant. You might really damage the plant, and repotting is already a stressful thing for plants, and so you want to be as gentle as you can. This one really is in there. I knew this one was really pot bound. So I'm just trying to get in there. Sometimes I do poke my finger in at the bottom to kind of get it to pop out like that. But when you poke your finger in at the bottom, you really have to be careful. All right, and you can see that that was really pot bound, like super pot bound. I should have repotted a long time ago. But this burle marxx is so beautiful. Look at the variegation that I've been able to get. And again, it's because I put it outside, let the sun just do its thing. Of course, it still has a lot of green, and I could go ahead and chop off the green to get more variegation, but the variegation that I am getting is just so beautiful. And if the green does start to take over, I will start to, cut the plant back, but I am getting more variegation. Here's a new leaf that's coming in. That one's going to be variegated. I can see it on the leaf already. But yeah, I saw on marxx that he was growing these plants in really high light, and it was giving him more creamy variegation. So when I decided to get one, I decided that I was going to put it in more light. I was going to stick it right outside so I can get as much variegation as possible. And it worked. I've been able to get a lot of variegation out of this plant. And burle marxx is one of the easiest, easygoing plants that I have, especially of the philodendrons. Like if you want to get like the variegated billieti, but you can't afford the billieti, or you don't want to deal with how the variegation grows on the billieti or billietiae, I would definitely recommend the variegated burle marxx. It's such an easy going plant. Now it does tend to grow a little crazy if you don't give it enough light. It will get really leggy, kind of how my green variety is doing. But I am, like I said, I think I'm just gonna chop that back, and it'll look good, because I'll make it bushy again like this one, and I'll make sure to give it more light so it stays bushier. It was a lot bushier when I first started it, but I was buying more plants and prioritizing the other plants with light, so that's why it got leggy. But yeah, so that's what that plant looks like. So beautiful. I love the burle marxx, and look at even the green one looks really good. And you have to really make sure you rotate this one, because look what happens. Even just a couple days, I rotate this plant and look what happens. So when I put it outside, I have to make sure to give this area some sun, because this one obviously is getting good amounts of light. And the last plant that I'm doing today is a plant that I cut up, and I don't think I told you guys. I cut up my Philodendron Melanochrysum, and I'm starting over. This plant was getting root bound as well, and it just started not doing well, so I just chopped it back and I water propagated it, and you can see these roots. They're probably about 4 inches long. I do wait till my roots are about 2 to 3 inches before I go ahead and pot them up. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and repot the Melanochrysum. And for some reason, I don't do as well with the Melanochrysum or the Variegated. My Variegated's also not doing well at the moment. And I think it's because these plants need to be watered more often than my other philodendrons. These plants do like moisture. I find that when they don't get enough moisture, the leaves get stuck, especially on the Melanochrysum, or they start to get that speckling on there, and it doesn't have spider mites, so I know the speckling's not from spider mites. I believe it's a moisture issue because the speckling reminds me of the speckling that anthuriums get when they're not watered on time. And so with this one and my varicosum, and even the varicosum melanochrysum cross, I need to keep an eye on them to make sure that they don't stay dry for too long. I might start to water them when the moisture meter reads a 1 or a 2 just to see what happens. But I'm gonna try and see how watering it more does. Of course, I'm gonna have to wash these leaves off because the dirt is sticking to the leaves since I just pulled them out of water. Again, I'm pushing down to make sure I don't have any air pockets, but being careful that I don't damage their fragile roots. And then you can even tap the sides of the pot to make sure that it falls down in there. And so I had 3 cuttings of this, and so that's what it looks like. And hopefully this time it will grow beautifully for me. Alright, so I think that's all of the plants that I needed to repot. And yeah, I don't think there's any more plants that I need to repot. I do have 2 plants that I want to fix for my transformations episode, so that might be the next episode. And then basically what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to move all my plants in, organize, and do a houseplant tour. Maybe I'll even do a video on what I do to bring my plants back inside. I'm basically just going to spray them down and look at the leaves and things like that, so that way I can make sure they're bug free before I bring them in. We'll do a houseplant tour, and that will be it for my transformation series. So yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much for hanging with me on this nice Saturday morning, or whenever it is when I decide to upload this video. I appreciate everyone's support, comments, likes, and things like that. And I just want to thank you guys. So yeah, please like and comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.